Yeah, so I made a video yesterday talking about how they're going to introduce the new hotfix system, and lo and behold, today on, I think it was Flats and Emong's stream, they revealed the patch notes early. They didn't want to release it to the public, they just released it to these two streamers. The screenshot that I have is very bad because I screenshotted it from Stylos's video, but it looks pretty sizable in terms of the effect that it's going to have on the game, because it's affecting tanks, Doomfist, Orisa, Ramattra, the DPS Sojourn and Tracer, and the supports Ana and Kiriko. So first thing first is Doomfist. Now, with the new buffs, Doomfist has seen a skyrocket in terms of play rate. He is now one of the most played tanks, and as such, they realize that his kit is broken. The first thing that they're doing is they're changing the cooldown of his rocket punch from 3 seconds to 4 seconds. Now, with someone as cooldown reliant as Doomfist, this is going to be a very big change, as his rocket fist is a way for him to get into the fight, out of the fight, the main way to do damage, because instead of having people slam into the walls in order to do damage, he now does damage just by really just hitting them. They also changed his power blocking ability. That's where he lifts his arms up, absorbs, well, not really absorbs, but more like turns the damage that he receives into damage he can then output. So they changed it from 80 damage needed to be fully charged to 100 damage to be fully charged, which is I think what it was before the buff. And now his passive, the temporary health gained per target hit with abilities, has now been decreased from 40 to 35. So if you hit a target with an ability, it will only give you 35 health instead of 40. Now that doesn't seem like a lot, but with the AoE abilities such as his slam, if you hit 3 enemies, it'll be giving you 15 less health. Doesn't seem like a lot, but in a fight that could like make or break it for you. After Doomfist, the next thing on the patch notes is Orisa, and they're actually giving her a buff. So her Terra Surge can now pierce through barriers upon impact, and the augmented fusion drive, the damage fall off range, is now changed from 15 to 25 meters. So basically, if you don't know what those abilities, the specific names of them are, the augmented fusion drive is just her normal auto attack with her machine gun. So they're changing the damage fall off range from 15 to 25, allowing Orisa to do more damage at longer distances, and Terra Surge is her ult. So now the damage will be able to go through barriers once she slams that javelin down into the ground. Following the trend, the next hero, Ramattra, is getting a buff. So his Nemesis form, when he's, super big and strong and on those nano steroids, his movement speed has been increased by 20%, and the armor bonus has been increased from 150 to 225. So what they're doing here for Ramattra is instead they're giving him more armor so he can be more tanky, in addition to the 75% from the blocking, and they're actually giving one of the most substantial buffs, which is a movement speed buff. That has been the #1 complaint with Ramattra, as he needs a Lucio or a Kiriko to basically speed him up in order to catch up to the enemies. The range on his punches when he's at Nemesis form feels so short, and this should be able to, one, help that. Instead of changing the range, they just gave him some movement speed, so now he's actually able to push forward, able to use his Nemesis form properly. And for his normal form, they changed Void Barrier, which is his normal shield barrier. They reduced the cooldown from 15 to 13 seconds, which should help him mitigate more damage and overall just be more of a traditional tank. Moving on to the DPS, we now have Sojourn, and everyone has been saying please nerf her. She is too strong. The last patch that you have done, now with the Mercy Pocket, she's even stronger. So now for her primary, they increased the fire spread to, I think it says 28% or 25%. So they increased the amount that her primary fire spreads by around 25 to 28%. I can't really see because the screenshot's low quality on my end. The next thing, her Disruptor Shot, it no longer slows enemy movement. So that's her charge ability. When she uses her alternate fire, if you hit someone with it, it no longer slows them. Doesn't really change much in the fact that it's still very, very easy to gain that charge, to be able to literally one-shot almost any character in the game and just return to having an insane primary fire. But the next thing that's listed here is her power slide. The cooldown has been increased from 6 to 7 seconds. So that means that if Sojourn is now caught out, it's going to be harder for her to just move around and escape. It might be easier to pin her down with this, this because she can no longer slow you with that disruptor shot and then power slide. The power slide is going to have a longer cooldown, and that disruptor shot is no longer going to slow you. From the last patch, another DPS that has gotten very strong has been Tracer. Tracer's play rate has skyrocketed because they increased the damage on her pistol, and now they're reducing the damage from 6 to 5.5, which overall will equate to less one clipping, will equate to just having a weaker fighting stance, but for those good Tracer mains, she'll still be viable enough to play. Now, this is probably between Ramattra and Ana for having the biggest buff of this patch. Her biotic rifle, her normal fire that does damage and heals, the damage has been increased from 70 to 75. Now, I want to see exactly how that affects the game. It's definitely going to shift her into the meta, because as well as her normal firing doing 5 more damage, 5 more healing, her biotic grenade, her anti-heal or additional healing effect grenade, the effect duration has been increased from 3 to 4 seconds. So that will let her either heal more or help her team burst down a hero such as Roadhog more, which is in a sense an indirect nerf to Roadhog, because we know that Roadhog has a very high play rate because of his one-shot ability with his hook, and then his healing ability. He can heal for half his HP in a matter of seconds, and it's on a fairly short cooldown for that strong of an ability. So now they're buffing Ana, who has a great counter to Roadhog, and they're giving her more damage, more healing, and they're letting that anti-heal effect duration last longer from 3 to 4 seconds, which should help in team fights against Roadhog, and just in general is a very strong ability now. And the last person on these patch notes that we see is Kiriko, and her protection Suzu, I don't know if that's how you say it, but her grenade that you throw on the ground that lets you be invulnerable, the duration has been reduced from 1 to 0.85 seconds. This is better in my opinion, because in that split second she can save people, but it doesn't last long enough for them to be prevented of maybe finishing off a kill, for example. So say Junkrat Tire puts someone to half HP and they're about to be bursted down. The Kiriko can use this invulnerability to either prevent the Junkrat Tire from putting them to half HP. If the Kiriko messes up that reaction time, they still have that 0.85 seconds of invulnerability to be able to escape and then be healed by Kiriko. So overall, this patch is significant because, one, it's putting a paywall hero into a better stance, which might not be seen as favorable by the community. But I think it's actually not that bad, and I'm not saying that because of the fact that Ramattra is one of the people that I have because I have the battle pass. No, I'm saying this because Ramattra is so, I'm gonna just use slang here, so mid. He's not better than any tank at one specific thing. He's kind of just a jack of all trades, a master of none. So with the movement speed increase on his nemesis form, as well as the armor increase, that's going to put his nemesis form stronger, which is his main brawling form. And when he's not in that brawling form, his shield has now gotten a lower cooldown, which lets him be more of a traditional tank. Sojourn, very necessary nerfs. The whole community has been really outraged at how broken she is. And Ana, one of the people that we see leaving the meta when Overwatch 2 first dropped, because of Kiriko, Moira, Mercy, Lucio, all of them really being used more, and even Baptiste being used more than her. Now this is a good buff that's going to make more Ana mains happier. More people will turn to Ana as the biotic grenade, the anti-heal grenade. The effect duration has been increased, and it's going to have a better effect against the people who just sit there and play Roadhog. Overall, I think for a hotfix, for something that they have managed to do in 3 days, this is very impressive. They might have been thinking of some of these buffs or some of these nerfs already for a while, but the fact that they said we're going to use this new system to put these buffs into place is very impressive. And as I've said in my previous video, a lot of people are happy that it's not all bad. All the news coming from Overwatch is not all bad, because the community itself is literally just a dumpster fire currently. So as they can make better and better changes, instead of just being like, oh, we didn't know it was going to do that much damage, for example, and now we're just rolling it back, they're able to assess the state of a certain hero at that point in time in the meta and make the fast changes that are necessary. So if someone's broken, they can change it quickly instead of having to wait maybe 2 weeks or a week. And overall, I think this is positive. I think that as we go on, we're going to see better and better changes, and overall the state of the game will improve. Now the next thing that they need to tackle is the battle pass, and the fact that if you try to earn free coins for the whole season, you will only get around half a battle pass. So the people who have been grinding the game weekly to try and get these challenges done. By the end of season 2, they will have enough for the next battle pass. But that's so much work, because if you just miss 1 week, then you're down 60 coins, and that doesn't sound like a lot, but the fact that you can only get 60 coins per week is a big problem. I'm not saying that they have to completely revolutionize everything, but they have to add some sort of incentive to keep people buying the battle pass, or at least grinding the game enough to unlock everything in the battle pass. And that's it. GG easy.